What do makeup brands mean by cool tones and warm tones? This will be a great makeup tutorial for beginners, or rather a makeup dictionary, but even if you are experienced in makeup, you might still discover some surprises. Let's start with the general definition. What are cool colors and warm colors in general? You can see a color wheel, and the warmest color on it is the red, and the coolest color on it is the cyan. You can call it turquoise. Some say the coolest color is blue or some green, but it's actually something in between, although color wheels can differ a little bit, but you get the idea. Red is the warmest color, cyan is the coolest. Then we divide the color wheel between them roughly in half, and then on this borderline we get the purple and the yellow, and we are saying that they are neutral tones. So like a true purple is neutral and a true yellow is neutral. They're neither warm nor cool. Then the colors that will be in the half where the red is will be called warm tones, and the colors that will be in the half where cyan is will be called cool tones. So the purple that goes slightly to blue will be a cool toned purple, and a yellow that goes slightly to orange, like a warm sunny yellow, will be called a warm. Like I already used the word warm here. So you get the idea, and it seems pretty easy, right? You just take the color wheel, you divide warm yellows, oranges, reds, pinks, magentas, magenta purples, they're all warm tones, and blurples, blues, turquoises, teals, greens, limes, they're all cool tones. Pretty easy. Let's wrap up this video and go home. But no, the makeup brands are not about to make our life this easy. So what the heck do they mean when they're saying a cool toned pink? Like, pink is on the warm side of the color wheel, so it's a warm tone regardless of which pink it is. Now here, that also kind of makes sense, because if we already are in a certain hue, let's take this section of the color wheel where the pink is, like this little triangle, like we're cutting out a pie. Now we just have the pinks, and we are looking at them, and the ones that are closer to red, we call them warm pinks. For example, this will be a warm pink, and this will be a cool tone pink. Why? Because that's a pink that's already going a little bit towards purple. So the closer to red within like the slice of a pie you are, the warmer the tone is. So you can refer to it as a warm pink, as a warm orange, and the further from the red you are, you can refer to it as a cool tone. Same as, let's cut out the green section now of the pie. You can refer to this as a cool toned green and to this as a warm toned green, because this is closer to red and further from cyan, and this is closer to cyan and further from red. Pretty easy. Okay, that makes sense as well. As long as we have defined that we're talking like just about pinks, we can also define what cool and warm tones are. So although pink is a warm color overall, but if we want to talk about something more nuanced, this terminology also makes sense. But then you are looking into neutral eyeshadows, and you see something like a warm brown or a cool brown, and I'm like, here I'm so mad at the use of words warm and cool. Maybe sometimes it slips with me too, because I see it so often, but I try to never refer to brown as warm brown or cool brown, because it drives me nuts. Because it doesn't make sense at all. So at first you would think, that's what I thought at first when I saw like a cool brown. I was like, how can a brown be cool? It's a warm tone. Then I was like, okay, maybe it's a brown that is further from red, so that is leaning slightly to yellow, that is like more yellow brown, maybe even like leaning slightly to green. You know, sometimes you can see like a greenish brown. I was like, maybe cool brown is something like that, and a warm brown is something, you know, more like a reddish brown, like a brick kind of color. But no, with browns, it's totally different. Brands are not talking about hues now. They are talking about saturation. Yes, it has nothing to do with the hue. It doesn't matter if your brown is leaning red or if it's leaning yellow. All that matters if it's slightly grayish, so it's less saturated. It's kind of a gray brown, closer to gray, maybe even almost to gray. This is called a cool brown. And if it's a richer, more vibrant color, this is called a warm brown. Yes, guys, it's crazy as that. But now at least you will know when you shop for eyeshadows or nude lipsticks or, you know, like shades of brown, what the heck brands mean by that. So if a nude lipstick is described as cool toned, you might expect something like a grayish or a gray brown. If it's described as a warm toned, you might expect something more saturated, like maybe even slightly orangey, you know, like slightly reddish. So please, let's not normalize that. Let's put a stop to that, because that is just so confusing. It makes absolutely no sense. And I mean, it kind of makes sense to say cool pink, warm pink, instead of saying like cooler, warmer, just for the sake of brevity, I guess, for the sake of laziness perhaps. But why can't you just say muted or vibrant instead of cool and warm brown? My mind is blown. But that is not the end of it. That is not the end of it. You thought we were done with browns, right? No, there is a very specific type of browns in the makeup industry, and these are, if you have guessed complexion products, you were right. So things like foundations, powder foundations, concealers, and anything else that is meant to like mimic our skin tone, and even, you know, the definition of the skin tone itself. Like, would you describe yourself as a warm toned or cool toned? What do brands mean by that? Like, is your skin gray? Or is your skin more vibrant, like a flaming orange? Nobody's skin is gray or flaming orange. No, this time it's completely different again. If you're finding the video useful so far, please give it a like. It will help it spread to more people. And this time the brands are finally referring to hue again. So is it leaning red? Is it leaning yellow? And you would think that a brown, so like a foundation. Foundations are shades of brown, okay? Like beige, brown, these are all shades of brown, lighter, darker. And we all, like all the people, no matter how fair our skin tone is or how deep our skin tone is, we are all some shade of brown. So you would think that a warm foundation shade is something that is closer to red, right? So if you have like a reddish, a pinkish undertone in your skin, you should choose a warm foundation. And if it's leaning yellow, so it's further from the warmest color on the color wheel, the red, then it should be a cool toned foundation. But no, most brands define warm toned foundation as, you know, the golden tones, so something that is leaning yellow, and describe the cool toned foundation as something that is leaning reddish, pinkish. Why? I don't know. That makes zero sense. That makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. When you shop for foundation, be careful, because most of the time, if you need a foundation for your golden undertone, you need to be looking for a warm shade. Except for one brand, at least for one that I know of, maybe some other ones as well. Do let me know in the comments if you know other brands who do that. There is one other brand that also thought, just like me, that this just doesn't make any sense. And this is MAC Cosmetics. So once again, be careful. If you're shopping for complexion products from MAC Cosmetics, usually warm and cool would be the other way around, as with most brands, and that is the correct way in my opinion. So MAC is considering the shades that are leaning red, that have a red pink undertone, as warm shades, and the shades that are leaning yellow, so that have a golden undertone, as cool tone shades. And this is also how most brands would describe your skin tone. So all of our skin tones have some red in them and some yellow. If you have more of a yellow, you would usually be described as warm. If you have more of a red, you would usually be described as cool tone. I'm lucky here because I have a neutral undertone. So when I'm shopping for foundation, I just pick a neutral undertone. I don't have to worry about that, but most people do. Julie from the future here, because we forgot to address that nightmare of a scenario when you're shopping for a red lipstick and you hear the words blue-based red, or even worse, cool red and warm red. But red is the warmest of colors. How can it be cool? How can it be warm? Because what is warmer than red? And by the way, I don't think I've ever heard like warmer cool cyan, warmer cool turquoise, teal, you know, that color family. But if you have, do let me know. But I did hear warm and cool red, and I did hear blue-based red. So what that means in the case of red, because that's, you know, our hottest, warmest color. That means that if you are going from red to blue, and remember, the opposite of red on the color wheel is cyan, not blue. So if you're going from red to blue and you're choosing the shortest way, that means you're going through pink, purple, and then blue. And that is what blue-based red means. So it means that red that is going slightly to pink. Let me just show you an example. not this one. I got 2 red lipsticks here. And this one would be considered something like a blue-based red. I'm not sure how it renders on camera though, but I will swatch them next to each other. And what is meant by warm red, which is often referred to as orange red, which is way more correct. So that's red that's leaning a little bit to orange, that's going the opposite way. So while there is a true red, there is a red that is going a little bit to pink, a red that is going a little bit to orange, and sometimes this is referred to as warm red. Why? Nobody knows. That's inexplicable, guys. We just have to remember that. So if you hear warm red or cool red, don't be scared. And okay, this one is what would be considered a warmer red, so like slightly more orangish. And this is what people might call a blue-based red or a cool toned red. So it's slightly more pinkish. I think you can see the difference in them like that. Though that is closer to a true red, honestly, but you get the idea, right? And the reason why it's called blue-based is because when mixing this color, a little bit of blue pigment is added. So essentially, how do you get pink? For example, if you have primary color pigments, right? Blue, red, and yellow. How do you get pink? You add a little bit of blue to red. Now, if you add even less blue, just like a tiny, teeniest bit, you will get that blue-based red. So a red that is leaning slightly to pink, right? If you add like approximately the same quantities of blue and red when mixing primary colors, you will get purple. So that's why it's called a blue-based red. And the opposite, in my opinion, would be correct to call it like orangish red, orange red. But sometimes people say warm red. So I hope next time that you hear that, you're not intimidated and you know exactly what it means. While Julia from the future is here, let me know which makeup look do you like more, this one or the one in the rest of the video. Please comment. But now you have a weapon against the confusing terms that the makeup brands are shoving on us. And if you want to know about other curious things in makeup, I am sure you will love at least a couple of videos from this playlist. And I'll see you there. Bye!